No, that's right.
I'm slow to learn.
She's great. She's great.
Yeah.
Think that.
I don't.
Like, there was some header, it was in the bird fire pit, it's all resource. Everyone else stage, all kinds of you stage.
Ready. Well.
See, I'm awake on
Official meeting.
I just went on.
All right, I'd get this, call this meeting of the East Franklinton Review Board to order. Steph, call the roll, please.
Why would he say one? Mr. Fergus?
Here.
Mr. White?
Here.
Mr. Bush?
Here.
Mr. Nobby?
Here.
Ms. Benner?
Here.
Mr. Sweeney?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton? Here. We have a full house quorum.
All right, staff. I swear you in.
Stephanie.
Swear or affirm the statements you're about to give are true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do. Stephanie Kensler, Planning Division.
Thank you. We'll hold the roll. Well, let's move on to recognition of thanks of service to one Bart Overley.
Would you step up to the front, please, Mr. Overly?
Yes.
I've got a little things to read here for you. Thank you. So, I guess I'll stand by my microphone. So,
Can I sit?
on behalf of the City of Columbus, I would like to recognize Bart W. Overly, an architect representing a professional in the architecture and historic preservation fields, and a Franklinton business owner for his service on the East Franklinton Review Board. Mr. Overly was first appointed in 2013 to serve the citizens of the City of Columbus as a board member. During his tenure, the East Franklinton Review Board oversaw millions of dollars of public and private investment in the preservation and development of the neighborhood. His work helped guide neighborhood and city review of development proposals, ensured that the goals of the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan were met, improved the design of future investments in the area, and provided an opportunity for community stakeholders to help shape and direct the pattern of growth and development in the area. Some of the most notable developments Mr. Overly helped shape include Gravity 1, Gravity 2, River and Rich, Land Grant, Brewdog, the Columbus Idea Foundry, Pilot Dogs, 400 West Rich, and the development of numerous other residential, commercial, and mixed-use projects. Mr. Overly, who has earned the admiration and respect of his colleagues, former and present East Franklinton Review Board members, the Planning Division office staff, and the residents of the Franklinton area, by whom he will be truly missed, I am commending Mr. Overly, who has dedicated more than 9 years to public service with the East Franklinton Review Board since its inception through September 2022. Now, therefore, please join me in a round of applause to thank Mr. Bart Overly for his service.
I just want to say one quick thing. Former Mayor Michael Coleman, please keep East Franklinton cool and funky. Thank you very much. And I've really enjoyed being on the commission, and I'll see you on the other side sometime here. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Let us welcome his replacement. Francis Joe Hamilton, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
And let's move on to approval of minutes. Have everybody had an opportunity to review the minutes? Any corrections, additions? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Been moved by Kim Way,
Second.
Second. And we move on. All, call roll, please.
Mr. Fergus,
Approve.
Mr. Way,
Approve.
Mr. Bush,
Approve.
Mr. Nobby,
Approve.
Ms. Benner,
Approve.
Mr. Sweeney,
Approve.
and Ms. Hamilton will not be voting as she was not present.
Okay, this is so approved. We have one new application today. That application is EF 22-09001, address 630 West Broad Street. Kirk Marker is the owner and Brad Parrish is the applicant. Staff report, please.
Okay, so what I was looking at, were you at the last meeting?
No.
Are you allowed to motion and vote on the minutes? You are? Okay.
In the past, we
Okay.
ruled that that's okay.
Okay,
Is that practical?
I will take your word for it. I just wanted to be sure. I thought somebody wasn't here, but everyone voted, so I
Could
need to
decline
check.
if we don't.
Yeah, we have 5 votes in favor anyway, so
Okay.
we're good.
Okay, all right, staff report. So for application EF 22-09001, address 630 West Broad Street, this is a request for action for new construction and demolition for a new mixed-use project located within the West Broad Street subdistrict. The proposal includes a new 7-story mixed-use building, 2-story internal parking structure, 5 stories of multifamily residential, approximately 175 to 185 units, double height commercial spaces along West Broad Street, which will include covered patio space for future tenant use, and various levels of outdoor amenity and courtyard space. This proposal does include the demolition of all the existing buildings on site, and a height modification of 28 foot 8 inches is being requested, which is an increase from the code permitted 60 foot to 88 foot 8 inches. The application previously came before the board at the April 2022 and July 2022 meetings. At the July 2022 meeting, the board was generally supportive of the proposal, but encouraged the applicant to make the design more dynamic, including looking at the materials and transparency of the southeast corner, overall use of the various materials and massing, as well as balcony design. The board also suggested incorporating publicly accessible open space and more public art, including but not limited to the ceiling above the grand stair. The board requested the applicant include the conceptual massing of the future development to the west for context. The primary design changes to the application since the July 2022 review include varied the height of the parapet, added large format brick to the base of the building, increased mural opportunities for the garage screening, soffits, and balcony cuts along West Broad Street, added more balconies on the west facade, redesigned the southeast corner entry, adjusted the size of the townhomes and relocated balconies out of the right-of-way, and deepened the commercial spaces and the residential lobby. The applicant will return to review and approval of landscaping, lighting, and signage and graphics. The submittal includes existing condition photos, site plans, floor plans, elevations, perspectives, and material information. The proposal is generally consistent with the East Franklinton Creative Community District Plan, and the uses are permitted. The plan suggests that a wide range of architectural styles are appropriate for East Franklinton, with a preference for contemporary building design and materials, and that new construction should be integrated into the surrounding neighborhood. The proposal is consistent with these guidelines. The plan also recommends that buildings have a consistent level of detailing on all 4 sides and contribute to street activity. The proposal is generally consistent with this recommendation, with the exception of the North Grub Street elevation on the ground floor. Further, preservation of the existing buildings is encouraged where possible. The applicant is proposing to demolish all of the buildings on site. However, staff notes that the buildings, while historic, are not eligible for a historic register due to being heavily modified over time. Finally, the plan recommends full height screening of all roof and ground mounted mechanical, which is not included at this time. Staff is generally supportive of the proposal, but recommends the applicant incorporate additional activation along the North Grove Street frontage and ensure that all roof and ground mounted mechanical are screened according to the plan recommendations. If approved, the board would be approving the following code development standard modification. A height modification to allow an increase in height from 60 foot to 88 foot 8 inches, an increase of 20 foot 8 inches. Staff's recommending conditional approval, with the conditions being the applicant to return for approval of landscaping and lighting, as well as incorporate additional activation along North Grove Street frontage and screening of the roof and ground mounted mechanical in accordance with the plan.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Hearing none, will the applicant step forward, please? State your names for the record,
Grant Alvin.
Brad Parrish.
and you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is true and accurate to the best of your knowledge and belief.
I do.
Okay. Proceed, the floor is yours.
Yeah. So this is our fourth time with the group here. We've received great feedback along the way here. And just want to continue to push the design for this area. We focused heavily on this southeast corner here to really sort of tie in that corner and that entry feature, which would be the main, sort of lobby space to the development. You can also see by this initial render, we've added opportunities for graphics that we will come back and really show what they are. But we wanted to really activate, multiple faces of the building vertically, the horizontal surfaces. The materiality, I do have hard samples here of all the materials. Again, we're looking at a darker, black brick base on it, and all this materials in the back of your package. But I think the keynote material that we're looking to look at is this terracotta tile that comes in a different sort of shades of color and really gives a lot of texture and color to the building. So this is a product that has been similar. If you're familiar with the White Castle corporate headquarters, the white, although this is just in color at this time. So it's a very high quality product. Again, I think all the materials that we have selected are high quality and give a project that can give longevity to the building facades. We did adjust the retail bays, made them deeper as the market is requesting sort of a 40-foot minimum depth. So that has been adjusted in this development. We did study the west and east face and trying to activate that a little bit more on Grub. There was multiple reasons why we're still keeping the townhomes on the backside of Gay. But one of them was really the efficiency of the parking layout and making sure that we're able to serve the apartments, appropriately with the amount of parking that we want to have on the development, as well as keep sort of the natural ventilation of that garage as well, keeping the east and west airflow through the development. So I think really with that, that's kind of a big picture highlight of what we've talked about. I think we showed the sun studies in a version 2, as well as the 60-foot line, showing that variance on our elevation. So if you don't have any further comments, I'll just open up to questions and we'll go from there.
All right. Questions for the applicant?
So so the other sun study, the winter one, I did not see that come through. Is that?
They're both on there.
They're both on the same page.
They're on this, yeah, summer's on the top and winter's on the
Okay,
bottom.
before you had all seasons.
We had all seasons and then we responded back.
Not seasons, but months.
Yeah.
And then, right.
Yeah.
Months?
It was like all July, but different times of day.
It was
Yeah.
July all the time.
Yeah.
Right, So,
The bottom or the winter.
Yeah, the bottom of the,
yeah, and again, my purpose for asking for those was related to the project that we approved off of Gay Street, which hasn't come in for a final authorization, right?
Correct.
So I was hoping that the rest of the board that wasn't part of that process would know that there's a proposal there for a chapel and another building. And again, related to the height increase. I mean, at the regulated 60 feet, there's going to be a shadow that's cast on that site because of the orientation of the building. And if we approve more height, that's going to increase the shadow, especially in the winter. And I just wanted to, again, one let everybody know that, and that's consideration because, again, it's part of the decision making. And you can see from
Yeah.
2 PM in the winter that, that facade is in shadow. So it will have an impact in the winter. And the other, I guess the other point about that was difference between 60 feet and what you're asking for. How does that affect the shadow?
Mhm.
Which this is what you're proposing.
This is what we're proposing, yeah. So again, I mean, the 28 feet that we're reacting. I mean, you could see on the 2 o'clock that we're just barely touching the proposal because the massing there, is what's being proposed. We're really on that south face and roof line, but if there was a courtyard or anything that's internal to that development, we really won't be impacting that. It would be more on their roof line.
So Stephanie, can you pull up that? I'm just, it's a chapel and it has stained glass windows and, obviously anticipating light coming in.
It's not gonna be on box.
Did everybody on the board see that?
It's from November.
Bill has a hard copy if somebody wants to look through it. But it's,
It was slide down, retail studios.
I think it's a
Or-
little bit of.
And early in the project, I actually had the pleasure of meeting with the priest. His name's slipping my mind at this point to talk about, early on in the studies. And that's why our building really responds to, he was talking about their efforts to increase the steeple and all this. So it was a delivered conversation with him about, protecting the facade of the church. And we did talk about their expansion in the back as well. And he really wanted to make sure that didn't feel like an alley.
right.
And so that's why we responded with the townhome and sort of have this dialogue across Gay Street, so that it doesn't feel like the back end of our project.
Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I like that gesture that you did. I think that helps. That's the dialogue with that project.
Yeah.
But I just want to be sensitive about
Understand?
increasing shadows because we may allow for increased height. And that's just a decision we have to make. And again, this is an urban neighborhood, right? There's still going to be probably more tall buildings in East Franklinton, so just something to consider. I had another question. Should we just keep rolling?
Let's keep rolling.
So staff is recommending that you move the uploading, unloading for, I guess, people moving into the apartments to the further back. And you have it where it is because there's an elevator there. I assume.
Yeah, there's the elevator, and so that we can move in and out, and then it gives you, kind of direct street access.
Could you move the elevator back to the back corner and move that?
We need an elevator that is also our main lobby, so we're kind of duplicating services, there. Yeah, and right now we've split the elevator so that, again, from a tenant, so they don't have a long, they can go to one or two, there's 2 elevators in the project. One on that sort of west wing and one on the east wing, down here in the corner. Yeah, so it's really about trying to minimize the path of walking for a tenant that would be parking on the parking garage.
So if you didn't move the elevator and you moved the loading, unloading to further, that just means people have to roll
it.
Somebody has to roll their stuff
They
further.
have to roll their stuff.
Can,
And we find that it's like 30 or 40 minutes to unload. We do a lot of multi-family developments here. It's like 30 to 40 minutes to unload a truck, with couches and beds and all that. And the closer we can get that, the faster that truck gets out of there. And so we really try to minimize the number of steps that a tenant has to incur in moving in.
so there's, again,
Yeah.
I'm looking at this in small, very small size. But so from that loading space, there's an opening in the garage, right, to get to the elevator? With a door, is that right?
Yeah.
So if you did move the space, could you still have a door that came into the parking garage and you walk through the parking garage to the elevator? Or is that elevator only access from the lobby, right?
It's access from that lobby,
Yeah.
the move-in, yeah.
Okay.
It's quasi-acting as like
Yeah.
a vestibule for.
So I guess, are we concerned that just sliding it, like, is there a distance that you're looking to get away from Grub and Broad Street? I mean,
Well, I'm responding to staff's comments and they want to activate more Grub on the corner. So they would actually want to activate space around the corner. And I don't know if staff wants to provide any more details to that, like how far?
I don't think we had a how far per se. We were just, one of the plan recommendations is about, having parking, stacking, circulation, towards the rear. And this is at some level temporary parking. So we were thinking if that elevator and loading zone could all scoot farther north on Grub, and then that would allow the opportunity,
Yeah.
even at minimum, to just have a door into that far bottom left restaurant to just activate that killer a little bit.
I think, kind of looking and hearing the dialogue here, if we took just the loading zone, kept the elevator, kept the stair there, took the loading zone and slipped it back so that, the angle part, so this is really hard. The angle part of the front of the loading, like was at the hatching, at the starting of the stair or hatching area, so that you got the first 70 feet from from Broad Street to be actual curb area. I don't think that's an impact on the design. And would allow it to wrap more around the corner.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I don't think we had a specific depth in mind. Certainly, the further you can scoot it without overly impacting the view line, the better. Just, we really would like to see, there's really nothing active on your building on this side of Grub besides people moving in and out. And you are gonna have a building right next door to it, so anything we can do to activate this frontage. And our thought was if you could scoot that down, you could access that corner retail space from the corner and maybe have that patio space wrapped or something like that.
I think, I think that would be acceptable, and even where, where the fencing starts of the garage there, most definitely, we can have the loading zone pushed back. That's not an issue.
Great. I have one last question for, I'll probably have others, but they'll come up later. In your massing studies or the future building looks much taller than this
It is
building.
much taller.
So we should anticipate that you're going to be asking for even more than.
That's right. So that one's taking cues more from Gravity 2. Just trying to keep that height in the corridor along Broad Street, but be more of a gateway building as you are coming east into downtown. It's really that tall. So it's been slated to be proposed concept as an office, potentially our new office. And that being said, parking is going to be the big burden on that building itself. So the first couple floors are really just a garage, get some efficiencies for that parking that's required.
And again, we haven't approved anything yet, but so the idea is that you're kind of stepping down from the 50 to the church.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of generally the concept, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And that's also why it's a sort of a U-shaped building heading south, so that we get these vertical bars along.
Right.
It's like phone service.
Things like that.
That's all I have right now.
I have a quick question for staff. This going around, this is from 2020, is this a proposal given by the church, develop their site behind their site?
That is a proposal that was reviewed and approved by the board in November 20 for the site just north of this. Gay and like
It's gay.
Gay, Skidmore and.
North of the site?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was reviewed and approved. They have not returned for their COA yet. So in theory, that project could never happen.
Yeah.
It's not like it's in process,
Yeah.
under construction.
They put the brownstones across from.
Is the church, Holy Family, the developer, the owner of this project?
It's the Compton sister.
That's the convent.
Yep.
I've heard about the convent for a long time.
That's it. Yeah. It's cool.
And the garden spaces that they've planted that are kind of further back, so they probably would be shadowed. That would be a big concern to me, but this is the building's right on the street, so it's not affecting outdoor spaces.
Any other questions? I note that the rooftop mechanicals are not proposed to be screened. Architects want to weigh in on this?
Staff's recommendation is that it be screened, most specifically because the building next to it is going to be taller. So it will be visible to someone, just maybe not the right of way.
Okay, gotcha. Good.
So what's the applicant's response to staff's recommendation to screen?
So we, ultimately, we try to vary the parapets in the roof so that the vision, I mean, again, a 7 or whatever story, this building adjacent, it would have to do something a little bit more to respond to that comment. But the idea originally was from ground level, not being able to see them based on the parapets, which are historically 2 to 3 feet above the finished roof floor anyway, or finished roof as it is. So again, if the comment is about the roof, even if we screen them, you're still going to see sort of down inside the screening. There's never really a cap on those due to we have to keep the air circulation for the condenser units up on the roof.
Any other questions?
I have a quick question, kind of being new, just trying to understand it. So knowing that we do have a standard of like building height, and it's 5 stories, is that kind of just looking at the standard on that going, is that just like the recommendation? It sounds like we are approving outside of that,
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the plan and code recommendation for each, so the Broad Street, the Arts and Innovation, and then Dodge Park, they're all different height limits. And the one along Broad Street is 5 feet, but EFRB is unique that instead of an applicant having to go through like the city variance process, the EFRB can actually grant the modification to height. So
just a recommendation.
yeah, so in theory, you all, if they were asking for 12 stories or 20 stories, the board has the authority to grant that request. And the plan just kind of in context, just talks about having like the densest development in East Franklinton along West Broad. So I think that's why you see a lot of height variance requests on Broad Street.
And Gravity 3 has already gotten a variance for height, right?
They did, yeah. I don't think it was quite this high, but, and Gravity 2 obviously is much.
Yeah, they got 10 stories.
Yeah, it's tall. But I don't know what the limit is there, because that's like. That's the
Same,
same.
that same one,
Is it?
Yeah.
just across,
I should know that.
keep reading.
I have a question. Well, I guess I know the answer to this. Has the EFRB allowed for any other application to exceed the stated height restriction?
Yes.
What building was the project?
Well, Gravity 3 was probably one of the most recent. That 640 West Town also had a height modification. I'm not sure of how much. I think this one is one of the higher ones that I've approved. But I think, yeah, I mean, and Gravity 2, like 10 stories, so,
Both of those.
yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
I think the board's position has generally been that the Broad Street corridor is a little different than the rest of the neighborhood. And we see a lot of proposals for buildings that clearly are outside the design guidelines. And we've approved them in the past based upon the nature of Broad Street.
Is there a specific guideline for height on the Broad Street sub-district or the Broad Street neighborhood?
It's 5 stories or 60 feet, I think. Yeah, 5 stories or 60 feet.
So the plan addresses.
That
Broad
does
Street
address
has
it.
to-
The
Sure.
board has the discretion to vary from the plan.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
So I've brought this up the last 2 meetings, but I have sensitivity towards the historic church building next door and making sure that that maintains visibility. And your cutout, I think, attempts to do that, and I think that's a really good idea. And I think setting back the first floor retail also aids that. Where I'm kind of hung up is the center portion of the cutout that sticks out from the building on the first floor.
You mean at the notch,
The
right?
notch, yeah, that notch there, kind of immediately south of the swimming pool. In the middle.
It's right here.
Just how it's a little bit.
So where that slant stops in
Yeah.
the middle of the building, the cutout stops. So that part of the building is the closest part to the sidewalk,
That's right.
and it,
It's basically acting as a brake to just add a little bit more movement from the ground floor experience, but also is only isolated down to that podium and below, and then everything back above. You've got that open gateway through that stairwell, and then everything else is pushed back as well.
And
So it is just kind of a movement of your eye as you're driving through it, rather than a monolithic building.
yeah, that's what I figured, and I think it does accomplish that. I think it does a good job with that. I'm just wondering if there's a way to do it without having it stick out so far. Because I think the western half of the building that's set back on the first floor, that's good, but people on that portion of the sidewalk their view's probably gonna be blocked by that little notch to the church.
Yeah, I guess it's a relationship of the blue massing above and sort of bringing that down and then extruding it out and really starting to isolate what is considered sort of lobby amenity to the residential. And that's kind of a clear break between that angle portion is a tenant and then sort of the retail tenants occur back so that, again, also providing sort of a setback from the right of way for patio space and all that sort of kind of protected in itself. So that there was kind of multiple moves in just sort of that one gesture that we were trying to do.
Have you done any angled vision studies about what the view of the church would be from the western corner of the building, that sidewalk there?
So if you're sitting at a patio, would you be able to see the church facade? I would say, I mean, if the massing itself, no, we have not, if you're sitting in a patio seat looking down, but again, you would just be looking at the front facade. And I think the beauty of what the steeple and all that really is the height and the sort of 3/4 view. And if you're sitting in the same plane of that, you wouldn't get it anyway. It's really in the drive aisle or not in the drive aisle, but the street view of really having that 3/4 view of the church is the power of that elevation, not just a flat facade elevation when you're staring down straight line.
Yeah, I was paying close attention to that on the drive over here. I think in the street, we're good to go.
You're good
I was
to go,
But
yeah.
from a pedestrian standpoint, on that north sidewalk on Broad, you really have to be right upon the development before you would see it.
Yeah, I don't think even if the facade was flat on the front, you would have that view. You would be able to really see the church anyway as well. And I think this really starts to respond to the massing and the split in that elevation. Where that sort of exterior steps and really kind of responding to that to open up to the steeple was really kind of a move that we wanted to do. And it's kind of all responding into the map. I don't know. I know I'm not answering the question. I'm just. Yeah, see, this view is like if you're heading eastbound, which is exactly what we wanted to, but if you're sitting on the patio, I would assume you would not.
Right. Yeah, this looks great, but this is from the the far south corner.
But,
And
yeah.
if you were across the street on the north corner, you probably wouldn't see the church at all.
But I would think that any development with a straight facade across it would be difficult to see
Sure.
that as well. Any
Is the
further
parking, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is the parking for residents only, or is it open to the public?
The parking for this building is residential. Secured parking as well.
Any further questions? If not, let's move to staff recommended conditions board and see if we all agree with this. Applicant to return for approval of landscaping and lighting as well as incorporate additional activation along the North Grub Street frontage and screening of roof and ground mounted mechanicals in accordance with plan guidelines. Is there any element of that that we disagree with? Sounds like there's not. In that case, I would entertain a motion. Go ahead. Motion. Go ahead. Look, well, make the
We'll see.
motion.
Jesus. Yeah, I'm there with you now, Bill. I'd motion to approve, based on the staff report, or the staff report, that they come back for that review.
That they meet the staff recommended conditions.
Well, the one was the rooftop units. Did we?
If you want a screening above, I mean,
Yeah, the screening above is gonna be difficult because of the mechanical, the circulation of that. So,
Yeah, we just meant screening around,
Yeah.
just make it a little better.
we,
I understand you can't put it over.
we isolate those mechanicals anyways to be along the hallway corridors. They will be even further in, so they're not above a unit themselves.
for vibration with the units, the tenants can't hear them.
But staff's comment was the view from the taller building, right? So they're looking for more screening than just the parapet edge, right?
And they're worried about our future.
Yeah, so if there was some type of more like decorative fencing or something around it, yes, you're gonna see into it, but it's better than seeing the whole thing, was our perspective, but certainly you all can do with that recommendation what.
I was just looking at a building on the Georgia Tech campus that has exactly what staff's recommending. They're basically, every unit has a little
Screening.
screen around it, and you still see the top of the unit. So
Yeah.
it's not really, it's kind of like an attempt at screening, but it's still not screening. So I'd be okay with,
Yeah, we were the architect of record for the Gravity One project, and there was no screening on that project there. And now with the Gravity Two tall tower, you can see, those as well.
So everyone agree with that? Okay, so we'll withdraw that particular condition. Let me read back what I've got, what I think I've heard. It has been moved, has been seconded. It has been moved that we approve the application upon the conditions recommended in the staff report, except for screening of the roof mounted mechanicals. Correct?
Correct.
Do I have a second?
Before we do the part about the loading area, I think we need to add that into.
That sounded like the activation on.
Yeah, I think
Is
that would
that,
be covered.
that's excluded in that?
That's ground mounted mechanicals. Okay. We have a second.
Second.
Mr. Sweeney is seconded.
And, okay, so I have a motion by Mr. Bush, seconded by Mr. Sweeney, to conditionally approve the application, subject to the conditions in the staff report, with the exception of screening the roof mounted mechanical. Is that correct?
and it's building right separate.
That, if you approve this, that covers the increased building height.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Okay. Mr. Fergus,
Approve.
Mr. White,
Approve.
Mr. Bush,
Approve.
Mr. Nobby,
Approve.
Ms. Benner,
Approve.
Mr. Sweeney,
Approve.
Ms. Hamilton. Approved. Motion carries.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Appreciate it.
And since you all will come back for like lighting and landscaping, we can just address the conditions of the
Grass
activation on Grub and the screening at that time.
Thank you.
Okay. And with that, we are adjourned. Meeting today, thank you. Gallery.